Hi, I'm Carrie Mosier, and this is my Race, Class, Access, Gender, and Equity Issues project for educational leadership. As I was trying to decide what direction to go, I looked first at the demographics of my school. I work in an elementary school in southwest Kansas. We have about 300 students. 75% of our students are Hispanic, and 86% come from a low socioeconomic background. We've also had an influx in Burmese students in the last few years, so that just adds to our diversity. Our teachers are not as diverse as our students. You can see we only have one Hispanic male in the whole building, and that's our principal. Two other males as teachers, three Spanish-speaking female teachers, and one Burmese para. Everybody else is a white female, which is not untypical of education. But that just means that we need to be more aware of the impact that diversity and socioeconomic status can have on our students. So I decided to focus my articles on race and low socioeconomic background. My first article was Socioeconomic Status and Child Development, published in the Annual Review of Psychology, and Teaching Children of a New America, The Challenge of Diversity, which was published in the Phi Delta Kappan. I've also included some extra information from the APA website in fact sheets, which would be great to post at your school or just to distribute to teachers if they don't have a lot of knowledge and would like some. For everybody else in our class, just to look at for some extra information. The first article focused on how low socioeconomic status can affect the health and well-being of students, their cognitive development, and their socio-emotional development. And this article stated that the health of children with a low socioeconomic status are more likely to have issues at birth that stem from poor prenatal care. These can include low birth weight, being premature, fetal alcohol syndrome, and AIDS. And as children get older, the likelihood that they will contract a severe illness or possibly die is higher than what it is for someone from a higher economic background. Health issues that they have as children can often adversely affect them as they grow into adults. For example, poor nutrition and a lack of proper dental hygiene can translate into heart disease and diabetes and obesity and things like that later on in life. Also, two factors that will affect the severity of the effects of all of these things from a socioeconomic standpoint are the duration of poverty, how long they've been in poverty, and the age that they are when they are impoverished. Cognitive development and cognitive attainment for children from a low socioeconomic status is often lower than it is for children from a higher economic background. The association between the two begins in infancy. As teachers, we all know how important the first years of a child's life are when it comes to relationships and stimulation. That age is when they are just taking everything in, and often children from these backgrounds just don't get the stimulation and one-on-one time with adults that they really need. Poverty plus low parental education levels can often mean that a child will have a lower performance at school and a lower IQ. And a lot of this will depend on the mother's educational background more so than a father's educational background. Also, if a child is economically disadvantaged, it will be a good predictor of their school attendance and high school dropout rates. Socio-emotional development for children from a low-income family is often lower than that of a child who has a higher income. There's a higher prevalence of psychiatric disturbances. They have poor adaptive social functioning skills. They're more likely to suffer from depression and personality disorders and schizophrenia. They often use and abuse alcohol and tobacco more often than people from a higher economic background. So these, along with other factors such as poor nutrition, lack of medical insurance and knowledge, inadequate and unsafe housing, less chance for stimulation and experiences, less parental supervision at home. This all has a tremendous impact on how well students can function. And because of all of this, when they come to school, then teachers are often less likely to perceive them in a positive way. So I think it's important for teachers to take all of these things into account when they are helping a child who has a low socioeconomic status. We need to take our biases and push them to the side and not let them affect our performance in the classroom. And teachers just need to make sure that they're being empathetic towards these students and not judgmental. The second article focused more on diversity and talked about how the United States is becoming increasingly diverse and is one of the most diverse countries in the world now. 35% of the 53 million students in 2003 were minorities, with 25% being impoverished and 33% being English language learners. This fact is one that really surprised me, but I guess didn't shock me, was that a third of all Black and Hispanic students attend schools where 90% of the population is minority. These are schools that are more urban, inner city schools, but those schools are often less likely to have highly qualified teachers, and they often have unqualified substitute teachers. So they're not getting the quality, excellent education that they deserve. And even when they do have teachers that are qualified, they're often not prepared to deal with the issues that come along with diversity. In fact, only 32% of teachers said that they were confident in their abilities to differentiate for their students because of all the differences that they have. So universities are going to have to start preparing teachers better for the different challenges that come along with diversity, and when they're doing that, they're going to have to ensure that the training and professional development that they're giving does not have any biases in it, because that can influence the attitudes that teachers have about their students. Also, schools need to look at how they're organized, and this is something across the country. Only 20% of students are viewed as getting an excellent education because of the fact that you put so many minority students into one building and then given them poor, unqualified teachers to teach them in many cases. So to fix this problem, schools are going to have to commit to addressing the challenges of diversity, and it's going to have to start at a university level. And all in all, quality is going to make all the difference. We have to have quality teachers that are prepared to teach students from different backgrounds, and if we don't, then things are never going to get better. And then this quote was in the article: "Every single person in this enormously diverse and ever-changing system has the power to serve as an invaluable resource for all others, students, teachers, communities, elementary and secondary schools, as well as our colleges and universities." So I think that's a great point, especially when it comes to leadership. Every person can make a difference, and we need to think about that in terms of our student populations and how we treat people. So for me as a teacher and as a leader, I think that these are some of the most important things for me to consider. I need to try to understand my students from many different aspects. When they come into my classroom, before I look at them and make a judgment or place a bias on them, which I shouldn't do anyway, but before I do, I need to make sure that I know about health issues that these children might have, whether or not they're hungry that day. I should know whether or not their parents are even available to help them with homework or to come to parent-teacher conferences. I need to understand their living conditions and their cultural differences. And then I need to take all that and I need to reflect constantly on myself to make sure that I'm not letting those things influence the way that I treat the children. Also, it's important for teachers to be educated properly. I don't feel like I was probably prepared for diversity in my undergraduate program. However, I am from Southwest Kansas and grew up with diversity, so I feel like that helped prepare me. Plus, my district has also been good in making sure that all of its teachers are highly qualified, and they offer to pay for our ESL endorsements. So I think that's one thing that our district is doing that's very positive towards this whole thing. And we also need to make sure that teachers are always getting continuous professional development. Teachers can never just stop and be okay with where they are. We always need to be learning and growing, and we need to be reflecting on ourselves and looking to see the differences between us and our students, and making sure that we're not letting that affect us. So, as far as our leadership class, I decided to look at the different types of leadership that I thought would be best for a teacher to use, and I came up with three. Authentic, which means that you would be self-aware, driven, genuine, you would lead with your heart and your mind, and you would work towards a goal. Psychodynamic means that you're understanding, you're empathetic, and you take into account the personalities of the people that you're leading to decide how to lead them. And transformational, which I think is so important for every teacher, means that you believe in success for all, you're passionate, and you're enthusiastic. And so I think a combination of those three would be the best way to lead students from a low socioeconomic or diverse background. And then I also included some universally desirable and undesirable attributes from our leadership book. I think everyone agrees that trustworthy, dependable, intelligent, communicative, decisive, and motivational leaders are what we want. We don't want people who are ruthless, who are dictators, and who just drag their people along and don't care to actually help them along. That's not what teaching is about, and that's not what leadership is about. So thank you for listening to my presentation. These are my resources that I used. Again, down here, the APA fact sheets I think will be great resources for anyone who needs anything extra. And thanks for a great semester.